Welcome, empowered empaths, to the Power of Healing Your Energy show. This show is all about your unconditional love, your light, your intuition, your soul's purpose. And depression and anxiety are a side effect of not living intuitively, not trusting your gut, the lost connections with your higher self and others. Your soul's purpose is here. Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is, of course, Season 2, Episode 26, and I'm Christine with 24 Karat Healing. I am your soul purpose mentor, and this is all about the soul-sourced entrepreneur. And I read the book. I've got tabs all over it. I've tried not to highlight and underline things because I would like to gift this book forward to someone. And today I'm excited. I'm tickled. Basically, I feel like a unicorn. My unicorn here. I have Christine Kane here with me. And when I read, seen the cover of the book, it's so spoke to me. And I know it's going to speak to so many people here as well. And I'm just going to bring Christine in, and I'm going to stop talking here because, she is the author of this book. She is an amazing soul. She is a champion for all of us who are looking for the soul part of business. And welcome to the show, Christine. Thank you for being here.
I'm so excited to be here.
Excited to have you. And I always ask, where in the world are you?
I'm in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yes.
Where I've lived for, 25 years now.
25.
Yeah. So I've watched a lot of the changes here.
And you're the founder of Uplevel You, and it's hugely, wildly successful. But it was an evolution from your 15-year career as a singer-songwriter.
Yeah, it was.
You want to talk a little bit about yourself? And
sure. For me, and it's funny that I loved your intro for this podcast, and it was a real joy to walk through that with you, because it was part of that view of the world was what started me playing music. And I had graduated from college. I was in a cubicle job that I was stunned at how bad I hated it and was so unhappy. And every time I questioned the world, and is this what we're supposed to do? Everyone just seemed to be okay with tolerating a life they didn't really love. And I kept having these dreams of playing music, and I finally quit my job and I went and moved to Asheville and slowly started a career as a songwriter and learned everything I needed to learn, and went through a lot of deep healing work on myself, because at that time I was suffering from depression. I was bulimic. I had all kinds of stacks against me. And the process of doing that and of building a business to support my art taught me everything about healing and about life and about living robustly and clearly and in a healed way. And that career naturally then evolved into people asking me, how did you do this? Can I talk with you more? After shows, I would be backstage talking with people, not about music, but about life and mindset and business. And that grew into a coaching company that I did not see coming.
Yeah, and that's usually how it comes about. Where you're in the space you've learned a few things, and people start seeing your light in a way, and what is she doing over there? So it's curiosity as well, right?
Yeah.
And then seeing you grow, so you're like a shining example for that as well. So um, how did the book come about? When did that journey start?
I had tried to start writing a book about business for a while. And like many of us have gone through the different business strategists and people coaching and, well-meaning, a lot of people telling me I needed to write a book about, strategy and about up level, really, really going for the strategy side of business. But what kept coming up inside of me was the work I was doing with my clients who are mostly solo business owners, very creative, even if they aren't artists, they're healers. And I have some people who are real estate agents and attorneys, but all of them felt a little different inside of themselves. And what I realized was that most of the work I was doing with people, in spite of the fact that we were teaching a lot of strategy, was about what I call the soul track of business. So I teach that business has two tracks. One is a strategy track and one is a soul track. And as I started writing the book, what wanted to come out was more about the soul track, which is the energy behind it, the way we manage our energy, the way we flow in our business, the way we make decisions, the way we interpret the things that happen to us. And I find that most people were coming to their business from a really wounded kind of a place. And so this book was written as a service to people who they're like, yeah, I know what I'm supposed to do, but it doesn't feel right, or I'm feeling really off, or I get scared at rejection, or all the little things that everyone's scared to admit about themselves. I just threw it all down in this book. And it took 5 years to write, but it came about from that. It was a deeper calling than just what I was quote unquote supposed to write.
Yeah, amazing. And every page, I just absorbed it like a sponge.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
yeah, and I don't know, just pretty much what you put in the book is what I was feeling and thinking and seeing as well. It's like, well, in a way, telepathy. I mean, we talk about that quite a bit on our show, and it's happening more and more. We are highly connected, more so than we like to think we are. Um, and I thank you for being, brave, to actually, kind of shift the paradigm, the old
Yeah.
paradigm, the old model, the old thinking, the old ways. They just can't hold space anymore. Um, and if you're watching this, please say hello. Let us know where you're from as well. Marcia is saying, "Welcome, Miss Christine Kane."
Oh, hey, Marcia. Thank you.
And yeah, and if you're on the replay and you have any questions, feel free to ask them below as well. We're not going to leave you hanging. So, um, yeah, and I do get that. And one of the quotes I thought was, well, there were so many quotables from Christine. It doesn't matter how creative, chaotic, quick, starty, quirky, or sensitive you are, you can have a wildly successful business. And I guess everybody has an idea of what success means. What's your version of success?
I really do think it's that ability to wake up and know you're being exactly who you are in your work and being able to obviously make a living, an abundant living,
Mm.
doing exactly that.
Hmm.
And that does take some learning of how to navigate all these little terrains, because those of us who are, you know, I don't love using the word spiritual because it means so many things to different people. But what I've found is that those of us who have that sensitive, creative, spiritual side do not always know how to navigate that left brain world of having a business, having a side hustle, whatever it might be. And we hope that if we're just good people, it'll all work out fine. And then we end up feeling like martyrs or victims and like things aren't working, or worse, we think something's wrong with us. And
Mm.
my mission with this book was really getting people to feel like they are finally seen. So it makes me very happy that you highlighted, or didn't highlight, but marked up your book and felt in some way seen, agreed with, opened up to. Because that's the type of person who is often told you should not have a business, you should not be trying to make money, you don't have it, you just don't have it down.
Mm. Exactly. That's another, way of keeping us small.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not having a voice where you're like a champion for all of us that feel that we don't, or maybe we do. There's like a hint, but we're not sure. And Christine's gonna, take your hand and kind of guide you and show you how she did it.
Yeah.
I mean, there
Thank you.
was. You're welcome. You're welcome. And I mean, you learned as you went. And I remember the first time I seen one of your videos, and I don't even know how I came across it, but it was for your vision boards.
Mm.
Yeah. So was that like the first step of your business? Is that how it started?
So when I was a musician, like I said, people kept coming up to me and asking me, "How did you do this?" Because I wasn't on stage talking about any of this. My songs were just they were songs, and I was in the coffee house performing arts circuit. But I'd have these people come up and say, "I want to know more about how to follow my dreams.
Hmm.
Want to know more about intention." And I feel like a lot of the characters in your songs. And so at one point, I just wrote to my list and I said, I'm going to do a retreat here in Asheville, North Carolina, and I'm going to teach everything that I've done.
Hmm.
And the first time I did it, it filled up. And this was before vision boards were even out in the world. Like this was before even Oprah had talked about vision boards. And I remember the first time I did it, I made everybody do a vision board that night, and people were looking around going, paste poster boards, are you kidding me? And then I came back down, like I could hear talking that night. I was down at 3 a.m. and they were all still there making their vision boards. And so I wrote a little ebook about it. And it was again before The Secret came out, before Oprah started talking about it. And that book ended up taking off because it came out right about when vision boards did take off. And now we have Finnegan talking to us in the background. I don't know if you can hear him, but
He
he's
agrees.
decided he's a big fan. So yeah, and so I created a program teaching people how to run vision board workshops, like sort of like I did, and it has struck me how many lives have been changed by that ebook and by that program. It's called Vision Board Pro. It's not open right now, but it's one of those things that people, once they really rally around the power of their own intention and what they can do, lives get changed.
Yeah, intention, and that's interesting. I mean, I have never done a vision board up until probably right when I saw that video. And
Well, I'm glad my video inspired that. That's
yes,
very
it
cool.
did. It
Yay.
did. And it became like my oh gosh, it was almost like patchwork. I put this up, I put that picture up, I put quotes, and it just turned into a whole nother animal, and it lasted on my wall for about 2 years until I decided, okay, like come on. It's time to, create something new, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and now I always ask, what is your word for 2021? And
Mm-hmm.
mine is intention. It's interesting you bring that word up. So, and I believe I did post, or I did tab off. You have a section in your book about intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the book is interestingly the one of the things I realized about business owners is that especially when they're feeling scared or avoidant or frightened of being seen, or maybe this won't work, they would sort of stay a little bit separated from their business, and they would kind of hope someone else would come along. And I was coaching one woman in front of our mastermind, and she was angry at her team, and she's like, I just want them to be over there doing all that stuff while I'm over here doing my thing. And I went up to her and I held her by the shoulders and I said, I want you to look at where you're facing. You're facing away from your business. And I said, you have to turn and face the business, because no matter who you hire, you're going to be the one to be doing this work. And when I really thought about that, I realized she was expressing what so many of my clients have expressed over the years. And I created a mantra for my business owners. For my mastermind is called M Club, and the mastermind mantra is I'm in. And what I did when I started writing the book was I created the framework of the book around I'm in. And so each section is, I'm in becomes an acronym. So the first section, the first I is initiate intention. The second, the M is managing your power or managing your energy. The second I is interpreting circumstances, because once we set an intention and we're navigating each and every day with managing our own power, we have to learn how to frame the many things that happen to us so that we're not going into our old patterns, old negative mindsets. And then the N at the end is for navigating decisions, because as business owners, and anybody of us, we are constantly making decisions. That's what we do. We constantly make decisions and choices, and everything has to anchor back to that first part, which is initiating intention, because the intention sets everything up for what's going to happen next. And a lot of us, we think the intention will manifest as a thing manifesting, but the intention manifests as opportunities and as challenges. And our job is to really understand how to manage that process and ourselves throughout that process, especially in business.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, intention, that's I did bookmark that as well. You defined it as desire, dreaming, or destiny fused with energy, just like you said, but it doesn't come neatly packaged, typed up. We don't even do five. I don't even do. Gosh, I used to think, oh, 5-year plan, like that old model was.
Yeah, no.
Think about in 5 years where you are. And now it's like it doesn't register anymore because things are so changing and so shifting rapidly. And well, that word pivot as well.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the pivot. So, and you were just asking about intention, and intention is asking, what are you creating in your business now? And it doesn't demand a quick answer, which we tend to do. Right? It
Yeah.
asks you to relax and consider what's evolving. And really, it should be coming from the heart, is what I pulled out of all of it.
Yeah, and it brings to mind what you said about the 5-year plan, and why that always feels so off to many of us is, how am I going to know? Like, intention calls us to become, and we don't
Mm-hmm.
know what we're becoming and how we're evolving. And so to say, well, in 5 years I'm going to be this, that to me, it actually limits the power of intention, because our mind is now taken over and said it's got to look this way. Whereas when we're called forward, we keep going forward, moving with the intention and where it takes us, better things evolve, more real, authentic things evolve.
Definitely not, goal based, achievement based. You must hit this mark, or therefore this will or this won't happen. All
Yeah.
those ideas that would you say keep a lot of people in fear?
I'm testing that out inside of me. I think they keep people in should,
Mm,
and really out of their authentic self. Like, it stops people from trusting themselves. And it's not to say there aren't people who can do the 5-year plan and all that. There's people who are wired up in that way. But I really think that every single business owner is different. Every single business is different. For every story you've heard of this person doing it this way, there's someone else who did it exactly different. And, you were talking about Oprah before we got on this live, and that is somebody who has set goals, but also followed her own energy and really had some big, what I call self summits, where she had to really ask herself, who am I and what am I doing here? And all of us, I think we think of someone like Oprah as, well, that's Oprah. But each and every one of us has to honor our work and our service and our soul and our business by constantly tuning into who we are and honoring when something doesn't feel right.
hmm Yeah, it's all about the gut, checking the gut, trusting the intuition.
Yeah.
Um, and in your book, you talk about the soul track. I love that because I've also heard like stay in your own lane. That's what I think of. Stay in your own lane because it's really easy. especially for us sensitives, or even, whatever realms we're working in, be very distracted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the way I define the soul track is that I teach my entrepreneurial clients that a business, actually a life too, has two tracks. One is the strategy track, and the other is the soul track. And what we often believe is the source of success in business is the strategy track, meaning that your sales are the key, your marketing is the key, your team is the key, like all of that stuff. And that is very important. I'm not saying it's not a part of business, but where I find when someone is stuck, or they're lost, or they're spinning their wheels, or they're overwhelmed, or they can't get past a certain level financially, I usually look to what I call the soul track, and that is the energy of the entrepreneur. The energy, the mindset, the old patterns, the things that say I can't, or the ways that they have sidestepped their own, authenticity or integrity, or the ways they're giving their power over to someone else. Whatever it is, we each have this way that we're being called to expand in the work we do, in the business we have. And the business teaches us in our soul track where we need to go next and what we're being called up and out of. Like, as you say, healing your energy. So much about business is about, the way I work with my clients is about healing those little energetic wounds that have happened along the way.
Especially the worthiness,
Very
or
much.
you're meant to be, that the old one, you're meant to be seen and not heard. So
Mm-hmm.
many times we just hide, right? So
Yes, I just coached someone on that today because she sent out she's a professional organizer, and she was scared to send out an email because she just sent one 2 weeks ago, and to teach her. She's brilliant, and she's funny, and she's good at what she does, and she has that old fear of stepping up and being seen, and putting herself, marketing to me is offering your energy to the world. It's just putting energy out there. That's what it is. And obviously we want to do it well, but that's that thing that stops people of like, oh, everyone's going to tell me to stop, or they're not going to like me anymore. And that fear comes up quite a bit in business.
wow, that's amazing, and thank you for being there for her, so she can step into who she is true to be, like fully
Mm-hmm.
represent. That's why you're here. We
Yeah.
all have a contract.
Yes.
We all have a reason why we're here. We're all unique. Yeah, and you're talking about the 8 guidelines for the soul track. So it's interesting. Soft is hard. Like, I had to reread that. I'm like, what do you mean soft is hard? Because usually it's, if you're soft, that means you're weak. That's
Yeah.
usually what it implies. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, it's because the soft stuff we do. So a lot of people who are sensitive or are creative don't realize how good they are at this thing called marketing. And what I mean by soft is hard is that all that intuition, all that empathy makes for a very good marketer, and all those quote unquote soft skills create hard number results. And we think that it's all about the conversions and the opt-in numbers and the knowing the data, and it's not. The really best marketing that works really well has a whole lot of really great energy woven into it. And it's the same thing. Like, I look at marketing as any communication we do, period. And so soft is hard is actually, I'm borrowing a phrase from Tom Peters, who's a huge strategist, and he said the same thing about companies, about the soft stuff you do in a company makes that company more successful because everyone's more connected and they like being there, and they've created a culture and an environment that actually up levels the success of everybody.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And he said he believes in, you're talking about Tom Peters, but
Hmm.
he talks about, he's an engineer, so I understand that part, right? The left brain believes in numbers, he believes in measurement, but then there's the other 95%, which is the human part.
Yeah.
We have to remember that because a lot of times we forget.
Yeah, and I love when somebody who has that mindset can point to the things that we here, in this community understand already.
Mhm. Also, it reminds me of Einstein. I mean, when I was in school, I just thought he was a scientist,
Mm.
right? And now I know he is so much more.
Oh, yeah. Like Avatar level. I don't even know. Like, the more I know about him, the more I realize, wow.
He
Yeah.
didn't know anything.
Yes. Yes,
Truly.
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 Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just, and you talk about power, I talk about power, and there's a conversation that you had with yourself when you talked about addiction in regards to your bulimia. That was pretty powerful. Um, and you were in a martyred state. So I guess with addiction, it doesn't matter what it is. We all have those conversations.
Well, where I took that is the opening section of the whole opening segment of the section called Manage Your Power.
Mm-hmm.
And what I said was that bulimia, the addiction I had struggled with, was my first business mentor. And it's
Mm,
an odd thing to say, but what I described was that because I chose to really heal it, I didn't just go get a quick pill to fix it or try to just get on every prescription drug possible. I was forced to really go deep into that addiction the way any good 12-step program will do. But what happened was it taught me everything I needed to know about myself, about commitment, about consistency, about being gentle, about being, just being powerful. Not in a kick ass and take names kind of way, but in a very, very deep and true way. And so, in some ways, having to heal something that felt unhealable is what set me up for everything else in my life at that point.
mm. Yeah, very powerful. I actually recommend a lot of people to do 12 step through anything, even if
Hmm.
they don't think they have an addiction.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, because it's such a powerful process. It's like life coaching in and of itself because it starts to show you how you are managing yourself.
mm,
And I think most of our world is addicted. We're just addicted to things that are more culturally acceptable than an eating disorder or, alcohol or whatever. We're addicted to busyness. We're addicted to input. Like I said, like in the book, I call it input addiction, where we can't seem to stuff enough information inside of ourselves or pay attention to all the stuff on the computer as opposed to really looking within.
hmm. And that reminds me of you talk about blocks of time. Is it blocks of time where you
Yep,
block? Okay,
I do.
maybe talk us through that one, and because you're talking about distractions and addictions. So how does blocks of time work for somebody that, even for myself, get the shiny? I will. I've got a newsfeed eradicator on all of my social media
Yeah.
for that very reason.
Well, I always tell, like, one of the things that happens a lot with my clients, I've helped a lot of clients write books and create TED Talks and all of the stuff that everybody dreams of doing. And what always comes out of them is that the idea for writing the book was way better than the reality of actually writing the book because of what you're describing, which is the how do I sit down and actually do this thing? And the way I teach my clients to do it is to really block out that time and to really do it in small chunks of time. So it's truly the first time you start in on this practice, if you are completely distracted all the time, it's a half hour. And if you're more advanced, it's an hour. And every little thing gets turned off. And that means all notifications, or have a dedicated computer just for that. And you show up and you sit there. This is how I wrote my whole book and every song I wrote. You show up and you sit there for that time, not necessarily that thing getting done. So the song didn't necessarily get done. The chapter doesn't necessarily get done. You block the time and you show up fully, even if you just want to do a million other things, and you keep training yourself to do that. And another great practice that I also have in the book is something my very first coach told me to do because I was so distracted as a songwriter. He assigned intentional boredom to me every day for 10 minutes. And intentional boredom is not meditation. It's not anything. You just sit there and you be bored, because we've lost the art of being bored in our highly distracted world right now. And there's a really beautiful magic that comes with being able to just be with yourself and experience boredom, because what gets bored is the ego. Our spirits are not bored.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. And there is something to be said about boredom. I mean,
I
it's
love it.
Yeah, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it after the show here. I'm just going to sit for 10 minutes and do nothing. It'd be great. And then, yeah, and watch what comes through, right? As you're trying to stay bored, it's here. You got that ticker tape going. It's like, no. Yeah. Anyways, thank you for that. I mean, I want to honor everyone to maybe try 10 minutes of nothingness or boredom and see what happens, and leave us a comment or send us a note, an email. I'd love to know what happens with you, and maybe we'll meet halfway on that. So thank you. And then there's another 4 flavors of I don't know. The breakthrough of the 4 flavors. I thought that was very interesting, because for me, it's funny how I don't want this to be all about me in a way, but there were a lot of aha moments for me.
No, I think it's great if it's about you, because that's what people are here for you. So they want to hear your input on it for sure.
I'm being way too humble. Yeah, I don't know. That's part of the ego trap as well, is we have to figure everything out. So you talk about the breakdown before the breakthrough of I don't know.
Yeah, it's a common one. So that is in the section on setting intention, or what I call initiating intention.
Yes.
And it's the very closeout of it, because there are a lot of people who experience just, I don't know, what if I don't know what I want? And I taught in the book the different flavors of what that looks like and what phase you might be at in your life. And one of those phases is what I call the breakdown before the breakthrough. In fact, I have a podcast called The Soul Sourced Business, and I did an entire episode on this, followed by my own story of reinventing myself from music and what it looked like to go from playing music to opening a coaching company, and when my breakdown started to happen and the breakthrough started to happen. But when we are in a full-on I don't know what I want phase, the panic can be enormous. And you used the term figuring it out. And the worst thing we can try to do is figure it out, because what we're doing when we're figuring out is we're going up into our head. And our head does not have the answers for our soul or for whatever it might be. And so the breakdown before the breakthrough is that a lot of times things are the very worst, the very most unclear, and seemingly the most cloudy and foggy when we are about to move through a breakthrough phase of our life. It's when things are falling apart, things make no sense, we aren't sure who we are or what we want. And the push of the business world especially is a lot of people will just go grab something, because that's the most convenient thing to do. And what I encourage my clients to do, and what I did myself, is really live through that empty. Live for a time empty. It's one of the things of my favorite rune, from the rune. I don't know if you draw anything like that or do tarot or anything, but the runes I always loved. And live for a time empty is one of the guidances in one of them. And it's a key thing to do when things are not working or you don't know.
Yeah, and love the runes. I do.
Yes.
And that, thank you for sharing that. I do appreciate it. It's a good reminder for myself. And yeah, Marcia, she's saying that does resonate. Sit still and do nothing. That's her next adventure.
Thanks, Marcia.
She is a busy, I mean, she's retired, but she's a busy lady still, even being retired. So let me know what happens, Marcia. Yeah, and I just love all of that. And I when you were talking, I saw an image of fog, and I think of San Francisco, because I've been once, and I remember you can't really see the Golden Gate Bridge, and sometimes you can't see it at all. But here's the thing with fog, it's there.
Yeah.
You just have to be patient for the fog to lift. You don't just go racing down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a very good segue into what you were talking about. It's just to be still
Yeah.
and not know, but know, which is part of the intuition and just knowing that everything is going to work out.
Yeah, for me, when I was a musician, I really got like about 5 years before I started the company I have now. I knew I was going to stop playing music. I knew I didn't want to do it. Just wasn't where my soul was taking me. It wasn't going to be a forever thing. And what we tend to do when we get those little pieces of intuition, when something's not right, or we don't like our job, or we don't like where we are, is we doubt it. We go right into, oh, that can't be true. Or, oh, what would you do? You can't do anything. What else are you going to do? This is all you know. And I chose, instead of getting dramatic about it, trying to figure it out, I simply chose to acknowledge it. And I planted the seed of that intention. Like, this might not be my forever thing. Let's see what happens. And what I tell people to do when they're in that place is really pay attention to what does delight them, what opens up their heart, where do they notice certain things. And I told a story of, there was one point when I was playing a show and a woman came up after the show and she had her tax documents with her. And she told me she had listened to one of my songs. It's called Right Out of Nowhere, so many times, every morning. And it made her take so many risks in her business that she had to pay more in taxes that year because she made so much money from all the great chances she took. And as a musician, I remember, it was funny. I signed her CD, I sent her off. But as I drove on tour after that, I sat there and I thought, I love the fact that something I did made somebody lean in more into their lives and into their business and gain success from that. And that was the first little inkling that I wasn't going to be playing music forever. And I had a direction. I knew that there was something there in that delight. And so when just paying attention to that was one thing. And then another thing that happened was blogging started to become a thing. It was already happening, but it kind of burst around that time, broke. And I started blogging, and I wasn't blogging about music. I was blogging about creativity. I was blogging about mindset. And what was really interesting was I loved doing it. And my music sales shot through the roof on iTunes that next, month after month after month. And I realized that the fact that I loved doing blogging, that was new delight. And so what I was watching was, over the next 5 years, all these little things started to point me toward the reinvention that would happen. And what tends to happen with reinvention is everybody says, oh, you must have known you were doing that, like your 5-year plan. There was no 5-year plan. It was really deep knowing that I'm not happy doing this and I'm not going to be happy doing this forever, but I don't know what to do about it. So what I did was I just kept walking through little doors that opened. I paid attention to the light, and I let the next step of my life show itself to me. But most of us, that is a very hard thing to ask somebody to do, because there is so much not knowing. I didn't know. I had no idea. So that was my long ramble about not knowing.
No, now I remember that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm like, that's an amazing story. That's a good thing to have, change someone's life through a song that led you to a blog that led you to what you're doing now. That's a beautiful journey. It's sacred too. And I just wanted, and I was going to mention your podcast. I have listened to a few episodes, so I really love all the information that you share, and I find I get some really good nuggets, that I
Thank you.
leave with, and your voice is very soothing too. So that's
Thank you.
helpful.
Yeah, I have people tell me they listen to each episode 4 times and take notes, and that's, if that provides that service, I love it. It's a different sort of a business podcast, but it is very much talking about the mindset of having a business.
Exactly, and it's fun too. I was also on your website, and did you want to talk about you have a new ebook called "The Turbulent Times Guide to Resilience"?
It's actually not new. I wrote it right when the pandemic started and
Yeah.
everybody was looking at how terrified they were. Like it wasn't like the first, I don't know if you remember, like at first everyone was like, "Oh, we'll be in, be shut in for a month." And then
Yes, I
and then
remember.
my clients started, going into crisis, and we had to shut down all our events because we do live events at Uplevel. At least we did. And I wrote that when things were looking very dark for a lot of people. And the my call to everybody with any challenge that arises in your life or in your business or in the world is always to reverse it and turn it into, how might this be calling me to expand?
Mm.
And that shift is that question I kept asking my clients to ask themselves, is a game changer for them. It's what made me write that ebook. And I've now watched my clients come up and out and through all of this with, turning their event businesses around, showing up more. A lot of them had to revert to being online and making videos on LinkedIn. And a lot of them experienced massive growth last year just from doing those activities and asking themselves that question. Like, instead of contracting, which most of us do
Yes.
in the face of a challenge, really opening up, opening your heart, expanding, being called.
Beautiful. And that's on your website so people can download it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yes.
I've left the link there, christinekane.com. So if you guys are interested in that, or just have a look around, maybe check out our podcast as well. So, wow, you know what? I'm just amazed, but I don't want to forget. We are going to give a copy of Christine Kane's book away, The Soul Sourced Entrepreneur.
It may have to be
So,
to Marcia. She's our sole
well,
commenter here.
she is, but I'm going to leave it open to anybody that is watching on the replay as well.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to leave this open until Friday, because I know it takes time for people to be like, oh my goodness, I get a lot of comments after, people saying they missed the live. And it's fine. You can watch the replay. So if you would like a copy of this signed by the
I will sign
beautifully,
it for you, and you can
yes.
tell me your business or whatever it is you struggle with. I will do a custom signing to you and mail it to you myself in a little pink
Oh,
envelope.
oh, I love that. Oh, thank you so much. So
Happy
comment
to do it.
soul if you'd like to be, to enter to win, and I'll make the draw live on Friday. Okay, guys? And good luck to all of you. And thank you so much for being here. And I just want to maybe talk about you, because, some of the stuff that you wrote or that is in the jacket of the book. You love to hike. So do I. In
I'm a
fact,
very big tree hugger, nature girl. I love the mountains. Yeah.
me too. That spoke to my heart. I'm by the ocean and the mountains, so I
Oh,
guess I get a little bit of both.
that's great.
And rescues too many cats and dogs. And how many do you have now?
I've simplified. I'm down to Zoe behind me and
Mm-hmm.
Finnegan, who you heard earlier, and both of them are rescues. Zoe came from a Facebook comment one of my clients made. Zoe was dumped on a farm outside of Louisville, Kentucky, and I don't even know what made me do it. I wrote and said I might want her, and I ended up adopting her. And Finnegan was rescued on a business trip to Austin, Texas. And there's a lot of apparently stray cats in various little colonies in Austin. And he was behind the Airbnb that I was staying at. And he was a little tiny kitten. And
Aw.
the night before I left, I just plucked him, said a few prayers, and took him off on Delta Airlines back home. And he's been my cat ever since. So I've
Oh
had a
my
lot there.
goodness.
I wrote a song called Four Legs Good, Two Legs Bad, which is on iTunes, by the way. You can go
I have
listen to
got
it.
to have a listen to that.
It was probably my fans' favorite song, because I always have all the crazies would come out for that one. So, and in a good way. I mean that. People who rescue animals. So yeah, that's been something I've always done. Nature, animals, and women, my three causes.
I love that. Gosh, we have so much more in common than I mean, wow, this is just amazing. And just you talking about nature and animals. Yeah, you light up even more. You light up
Uh,
even more. Oh, wow. And Marcia is just saying nothing like a handwritten note. Thank you so much for sharing today.
Thank you, Marcia.
And thanks for sticking with us today, Marcia. We love and appreciate you very much. Now, is there anything else you'd like to share with us? And like, do you have something special going on or
No, I just
no?
if people feel drawn to the book, that is available, and
Yes.
I am on all the social channels. I think it's at the Christine Kane at Facebook and
Yes.
Instagram, and send me a note. I'm out there like everyone else, but I just wanted to be here to serve today because I
And
love what
thank you
you're doing.
so much for being here today. It's like, you know, I don't yeah, I'm gonna say it's on the bucket list. Like I said, I saw the video, I got in touch with you, I got the book, I read the book, and here we are. So that is intention.
Thank
Meaning
you.
you saw something that you really spoke to you and you followed your heart.
Yeah, I
And
appreciate
that's
it, and I'm grateful for that. It's so great to connect with you.
it is. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Even if you're on the replay, thank you so much for listening. Please rate and review my podcast and also Christine's. Go and have a listen to hers. She has so much wisdom, so much heart. She's full of love and light. And so, like I said, so honored to have her here. I have a few housekeeping issues. Yeah, I guess we're always cleaning. We're always anyways, housekeeping issues. Oh my goodness. I have a few things to go through, guys. Follow me on YouTube. I've got the March energy update up and running. So if you're curious about what's going on in the world right now for the month and how you're going to, I guess, navigate through it, I do those every month. So follow me on YouTube for that as well. I do have 2021 and beyond. I do talk about 2021 and what we have in store, the age of Aquarius, and all of that good stuff. And yes, thank you again. And if you know a guest or you know of someone who's doing amazing work, please send them my way. Otherwise, I want to wish you guys an amazing week. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Christine, for sharing with us your
Thank you.
beautiful energy.
It's an honor for me. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you for being here. And please remember, healing begins where the ego ends. Take care.